Colliers International, for anybody who doesn't know, is a property services company. The third biggest in the world, apparently. Most of my colleagues do things like valuing buildings and seeking tenants for shopping centres and stuff like that. There's a little dot on Dublin there. We have our office here and work all over Ireland. I specifically work in a completely unique little division for a property services department. However, I work in a division that specialises in destinations, really, which is we do all sorts of things to do with anything that involves visitors. We are main offices in London, but we've got a chap here in Ireland as well, and we work all over the world. Our most sexy project at the moment, I think we could describe it that way, is we're doing all the business planning for this new cultural quarter in Abu Dhabi, which has got a Guggenheim and a Louvre and a new national museum. I think it's about 600 million euros worth of investment going on there. So that's quite something. But of a lot more relevance to you, we do a lot of work on placemaking in towns and cities. I've worked in many, many of them. I was thinking, just as Connor was talking, actually, I should have thought how many of them have got of walls. But offhand, I can think of quite a few that did have walls, like Southampton, for example, and Chester. Don't know if this is Waterford, where we've been working on the Viking Triangle, not me personally, but I don't know if that has walls, but presumably it probably does, yeah. There you go. And I've been fortunate that I do a lot of sort of practical work on that, but have also had the opportunity to look at it from an academic point of view, I suppose, and do lots of research, mainly for English Heritage, the heritage agency in England, and I've done 4 really quite big research studies there, and it's the results of those really that I'm largely going to focus on today. So I'm mainly going to talk about English experiences, forgive me for that, but with a little bit of Ireland thrown in. Now, I'm quite sure that none of you in this room have this sort of impression when you hear the word heritage, but unfortunately there's quite a big body of heathens out there who do think of heritage in a slightly negative sort of way, but they're completely wrong. This isn't Milan, it's Leeds, the smartest shopping centre in the centre of Leeds. And in fact, if you look at all the big city centre retail developments that have taken place in recent years in places like Liverpool, with the Pt.1 development you might have heard of, or in Bristol and Cabot Circus, which incidentally, just thinking about Connor's remarks, any developer who comes and sticks a big box in the middle of a town or city centre now, that's completely out. The modern centres are all about trying to retain and rebuild the streetscape and stuff like that, and very, very much better than they were in the past. But if you look at these big new shopping centres, they have taken the historic buildings that they've retained in the middle of them and put their smartest shops either in or around those particular buildings. That's because they recognise that the smartest shops like the character and the ambience that the historic buildings bring. Connor was talking about this great fear that everybody in Ireland and Britain has, that all our town centres are like clones of each other and you see the same thing everywhere. And yet you find in a heritage environment, the North Lane in Brighton, that you've got independent businesses absolutely thriving. The place is packed full of independent and unique businesses. This is the Barbican in Plymouth, which was the old historic bit of Plymouth, came perilously close to being lost completely just after the war, not from German bombs, like the rest of the centre of Plymouth, but because it was seen as a slum and people wanted just to tear it down. And fortunately, the city council at the time instead divested the buildings into a trust, which is, in all the time since, has been gradually restoring and preserving them. Well, we used to think that only pavement cafes and things happened in France and Italy, but now, of course, they happen all over Northern Europe. And where do they happen? In places like the Barbican in Plymouth, which is the definitely the restaurant centre for Plymouth, and where incidentally most of the independent shops operate. Now, we did a big catchment area survey around Plymouth, and when you asked people about what they liked about different bits of Plymouth city centre, the thing that they liked about the Barbican was its ambience. Other places they liked for functional reasons, such as, okay, the shops are good there, or it's easy to park there, but the Barbican they liked for the ambience. And furthermore, the further that they lived away from Plymouth, the more likely that they visited Plymouth, especially for the Barbican. And really, that is the impact which heritage environments have. You also have some fantastic examples, especially in London, to be honest, where you've got companies which go around, and it's a little bit in London. There are historical reasons for this because there were many bits of London were developed by estates, but you've got companies like Shaftesbury PLC, fantastic really, and they sort of buy up the property in certain areas. This is one of their areas, Carnaby, and it's like privately managed public realm. They do up the buildings, develop a very clear vision for them, manage them, do the Christmas decorations, and they're completely transformed. And it's one of the reasons why London has been so spectacularly successful. It's because of the way that really clever companies like Shaftesbury have been using heritage environments to really make the city interesting. Now, when people talk about the economic impact of heritage and the benefits of it, it comes into, when you look at it, it comes into two categories, what I call landmarks and environments. And when people talk about it, invariably they focus on landmarks. Now, when we were assessing the economic impact of heritage in Yorkshire, I went and sort of did a bit of an assessment of the nature of these landmarks. And really, you can say a heritage landmark, the sort of characteristic of it is that people visit it. There are all sorts of different ones, of course, but actually all have the common characteristic that people visit them for one reason, in their own right. And there are about 440 of them in Yorkshire using this assessment method, which was simply, if anybody knows, the Blue Guide is probably the number one guide for anybody who's interested, a travel guide for anybody who's interested in heritage and culture. And so I went up and literally tallied up all the various different things that were mentioned in the Blue Guide. Incidentally, I think it was kind of talking about the Lonely Planet, but almost everything that is mentioned in a tourist guide will be a heritage thing. Very little else actually it comes in that's not heritage related. But anyway, about 440. And then there are other things that you might not immediately think of. For example, every single one of 75 pubs in Yorkshire that is in the Good Pub Guide is a listed building. I'm quite sure that exactly the same happens in Ireland. Most of the best hotels are in listed buildings. So those are all forms of landmarks, and they are very important. I'm just doing a study for strategy actually for Arran district, which is in the south of England, and it's got three main towns: Arundel, Bognor Regis, and Littlehampton. And we did a survey of local people to ask them about our strategies about leisure and cultural facilities. And we did a survey of local people to find out about their usage of all the different leisure and cultural facilities in this district. And it was quite interesting. Arundel Castle, which is definitely the main heritage landmark in this area, and you can see it from most of the district, is by far the most the single leisure or cultural resource in this district that people have visited. Almost everybody living in Arran has actually visited Arundel Castle. But those two charts show, on the one side shows people who visited it sometime in the past, any old time, and that's about 70%. And then the number of people who say they visited regularly is only 2%. And I think that is true of a lot of landmarks, heritage landmarks and places, is that they form a bit of a sort of backdrop. In fact, I said to one of the councillors, and I said to a meeting of the councillors, that wouldn't it be nice if the castle did more things so that local people used it more regularly? And one of the councillors said, well, the castle's like the sea here, people look at it, but they don't dream of going into it. So the other category of heritage really is townscapes or historic environments. And it's impossible to tell precisely how many of those people are in Chester. By the way, you can probably just see some walls in the background. Are in Chester because they like the historic environment. But we've done a lot of estimating, and we reckon that probably the economic impact of heritage townscapes is at least 10 times greater than the economic impact of landmarks. We did a huge survey of 35,000 people living across the whole of the UK over a 12-month period about their visitor behaviour and stuff like that. And one of the things we asked them is to give their opinion of. We had 440 different places, and we asked 1,000 people for each place what they thought of their as a place to go out for a day trip. And I've highlighted the places that are thought of as known heritage cities and towns. And you can see they dominate the top of the list. Heritage cities are definitely the most popular sort of place. But even if you look more closely at Brighton, for example, I'm going to talk a bit about Brighton later, you don't think of that as a classic heritage city, but as I'll demonstrate to you later, the reason why Brighton is at number 9 place and is terrifically popular with all age groups is because of its heritage.